The air in the room thickened with the scent of jasmine from the garden below, mingling with the faint metallic tang of regret that always seemed to follow me these days. I'd come to this corner of Spain, Ronda, perched like a crown on the cliffs of Malaga province, chasing ghosts or maybe just trying to outrun them. It was supposed to be a fresh start after Richard's death, a way to honor his last wish. Take Araya somewhere she'd feel the sun on her skin, not the snow in her bones. He'd always talked about Spain like it was Eden, a place where the Sierras whispered secrets and the wind carried away old pains. Little did I know it would unearth pains I didn't even know I carried. I'm Ariella Kane, or was before I became Ariella Reyes through a hasty marriage that felt more like a lifeline than love. 45 now, with lines etched around my eyes from too many boardroom battles back in Chicago. I'd built a life as a marketing exec, sharp suits and sharper deals. Richard was my soft spot. A freelance photographer, all easy smiles and calloused hands from lugging camera bags across national parks. We met at a gallery opening in the Loop, where his black and white shots of the Rockies made me ache for something wilder than spreadsheets. He had Araya from his first marriage, a teenage firecracker even then, with her mother's dark curls and a spirit that could light up a storm. When he proposed, it was on a rainy afternoon in Millennium Park, under the bean, with Araya rolling her eyes from a bench nearby. "Don't screw this up, Dad," she'd muttered, but there was a spark in her hazel eyes, a cautious hope. We married quick, Vegas style, because why not? Life was too short for drawn-out ceremonies. For 3 years it worked. Family hikes in the Smokies, lazy Sundays with paella experiments in our tiny kitchen, Araya calling me Ari, like it was the most natural thing. Then cancer hit Richard like a freight train, stage 4, lungs riddled before we even knew. He fought like hell, but by the end it was just us, Araya and me, huddled in hospice, promising him we'd keep going. Spain was his dream gift to us. The villa in Ronda was modest. Whitewashed walls, a courtyard fountain that trickled like forgotten laughter, and views that stretched to the Serrania de Ronda's jagged peaks. We'd arrived in spring, the almond blossoms painting the valleys pink, and for a while it felt like healing. Araya enrolled in an art program at the local university in Malaga, sketching the bridges and bullrings with a passion that mirrored her father's. I freelanced remotely, pitching campaigns for American brands while sipping café con leche on the plaza. We cooked together, her spicy patatas bravas clashing with my bland Midwestern casseroles, and shared stories under the stars, the kind that bridged the gap between step and reel. But cracks formed early. Araya, at 22 now, was a whirlwind. Fiercely independent, with a laugh that echoed off the gorge and a temper that could scorch the earth. She'd inherited Richard's wanderlust but none of his patience for roots. "This place is a cage with a view, Ari," she'd say, pacing the tiled floors, her sundresses swirling like flames. I'd nod, hiding how her restlessness mirrored my own, the way my heart stuttered when she brushed past me in the kitchen, her scent of lavender and sea salt lingering like a question I couldn't ask. It started innocently enough. One evening after a market run for fresh figs in Manchego, we sat on the terrace as the sun dipped behind the Puente Nuevo. Araya was sketching, her pencil flying over the page, capturing the way the light fractured on the river below. "You ever think about what Dad would say if he saw us now?" she asked, not looking up. I swirled my glass of Rioja, the wine's warmth loosening the knot in my chest. "He'd say we're doing it right, living, not just surviving." But my voice caught, and she glanced up, her eyes searching mine in that way that always left me exposed. "Yeah? Then why do you look like you're about to bolt?" She set the sketchpad down, leaning forward. The candlelight danced across her face, highlighting the curve of her cheek, the faint scar from a childhood biking accident in Denver. God, she was beautiful, not in the polished way of magazine covers, but raw like the Sierras themselves, unyielding, breathtaking. I laughed it off, blaming jet lag or the heat, but the seed was planted. Nights grew longer after that. I'd lie in my room, the ceiling fan whirring lazily, replaying moments, her hand steadying me on a slippery cobblestone street in town. The way she'd hum old folk tunes while folding laundry, her voice low and husky. It wasn't right, I told myself. She was Richard's daughter, my stepdaughter. A line I couldn't cross without shattering everything. But grief has a way of blurring boundaries, turning what's forbidden into a lifeline. Weeks blurred into summer, the air heavy with the buzz of cicadas and the tang of ripening olives. Araya threw herself into her art, coming home late from studio sessions with charcoal smudges on her fingers and stories of eccentric professors who debated Picasso over tapas. I buried myself in work, video calls with clients in New York, pretending the time difference was the only thing pulling me back across the Atlantic. But the villa felt smaller, charged with an undercurrent neither of us named. Then came Matteo. He was a local artist, mid-20s, with tousled black hair and a smile that promised adventure. Araya met him at a gallery opening in Malaga, one of those bohemian affairs with flamenco echoing from hidden courtyards. She brought him home one humid July afternoon, his laughter booming as he complimented my attempt at gazpacho. "Ariella, this is the soul of Andalusia in a bowl," he said, his English accented but sincere. Araya beamed, linking her arm through his, and for the first time, I felt the sting of something sharper than loss, jealousy, hot and unbidden. They became inseparable. Hikes through the cork oak forests, late-night drives along the Costa del Sol, whispers in Spanish I pretended not to understand. I'd watch from the kitchen window as they kissed under the pergola, her fingers tangling in his shirt, and force a smile when she gushed about his latest sculpture. "He's like a storm, Ari, wild and alive," she'd say, eyes sparkling. I'd nod, stirring paella until the rice threatened to burn, swallowing the ache that said I wanted to be the one making her light up like that. But Matteo had shadows. Whispers from town reached me first, through the baker who delivered our weekly loaves, a widow named Carmen who'd known his family for generations. "He's got a temper, that one," she'd murmur, wrapping the bread in paper. And a wandering eye. I dismissed it as small-town gossip, the kind that thrives on isolation. Araya deserved passion, not cautionary tales. Yet doubt crept in. One night after they'd argued, her voice raised in the courtyard, his slamming the gate as he left, I found her on the terrace, knees drawn to her chest, tears carving tracks through the dust on her cheeks. "He thinks I'm too much," she whispered when I sat beside her, draping a shawl over her shoulders. "Like Dad thought Mom was before she left." I pulled her close, her head fitting against my collarbone like it belonged there. "You're not too much, sweetheart. You're everything." My hand stroked her hair, the curls soft as silk, and for a moment the world narrowed to just us, the stars wheeling overhead, the river murmuring far below. She looked up, her breath warm against my neck, and I saw it, the same flicker of confusion, of want that mirrored my own. We pulled apart, hearts pounding, the unspoken hanging between us like mist. That was the night the lies began to unravel. I started packing in secret, telling myself it was for her. A chance to spread her wings without the weight of my complications. Letters to Richard's old contacts in Chicago. Job offers stacking up on my laptop. But Araya found out. And when she burst through that door, it wasn't just anger in her eyes. It was betrayal. The kind that cuts deepest because it's born of love. "You were going to leave without saying goodbye?" she demanded, snatching the photo from the floor. Her fingers trembled as she traced his face. Our faces, frozen in that moment of joy. "After everything? After you promised me, that we'd face this together." I sank onto the bed, the suitcase mocking me from the corner. "It's not that simple, Araya. You have Matteo, your art, this life here. I can't stay and watch you build something without me in it." Her laugh was bitter, echoing off the walls. "Matteo? He's a distraction, Ari. A way to feel something real without admitting what scares me most." She stepped closer, the space between us electric, charged with the scent of her. Earth and salt and something uniquely her. "You think I don't see it? The way you look at me when you think I'm not watching? Like I'm the only thing keeping you here." My breath hitched, the room spinning. "Stop. You don't know what you're saying." "But I do." Her voice softened, breaking on the edges. "Because I feel it too. Every damn day since the funeral. You're not just Dad's wife anymore. You're home." The words hung there, a confession wrapped in shrapnel. I wanted to reach for her, to bridge the chasm with a touch, but fear rooted me. This wasn't some American rom-com, all tidy resolutions and fade to black kisses. This was us, tangled in grief, in roles we couldn't rewrite. Outside, thunder rumbled over the Sierras, the first drops of rain pattering against the shutters like hesitant applause. We talked until dawn, words tumbling out like the storm. My buried doubts about loving Richard fully, her resentment at being the daughter of the quiet admissions of how we'd leaned on each other in the hollows of night. By morning the rain had cleared, leaving the air scrubbed clean. Mateo called, his voice apologetic through the crackle of the line, but Araya silenced him with a gentle no. "I need space," she told him, then hung up, turning to me with eyes that held no more secrets. For a week we danced around it, shared silences over breakfast, walks along the gorge where the wind whipped our hair into tangles. The tension built like a fresco layer by layer. A brush of hands over the cutting board, her laughter lingering when I tripped on a root. It was romantic in its restraint, the kind of slow burn that poets chase across centuries. But Spain, with its ancient stones and unyielding sun, demands truth. And truth, I learned, has teeth. The betrayal came not from Mateo, that wound healed quick, a glancing blow compared to what followed, but from the past, clawing its way back across oceans. It arrived in a manila envelope, postmarked from Chicago, slipped under the villa's heavy oak door like an afterthought from fate. I'd been in the courtyard, pruning the bougainvillea that clambered up the trellis, when Araya called me in, her face pale as the limestone cliffs. "What's this?" I asked, wiping soil from my hands as I tore it open. Inside, a stack of letters yellowed and tied with twine, addressed to Richard in a looping script I didn't recognize at first. Then the signature, Elena, Araya's mother. My stomach dropped. "How?" "The mailman said it was forwarded from Dad's old P.O. box," Araya murmured, hovering behind me. "Should we?" "We shouldn't have. But curiosity is a thief, and we were already robbed of so much." We sat at the scarred wooden table in the kitchen, the one Richard had haggled for at a flea market in Seville, and read. Elena's words spilled out like confessions from a confessional. Her love for Richard, fierce and flawed. The fights that shattered their Denver suburb life. The night she left, suitcase in hand, whispering apologies to a 5-year-old Araya asleep in her room. But it was the last letter that gutted us, dated a month before our wedding, pleading with Richard to take her back, claiming Araya had been stolen by his new life. "I didn't know," Araya whispered, her voice a thread. "She never wrote to me. Not once." Rage flickered in me first, not at Elena but at Richard for hiding this, for letting us build on half-truths. "He must have burned the others," I said, rifling through the stack. "Why keep these?" Araya's eyes met mine, shadowed. "Because he never stopped loving her. Even with you." The words landed like a slap, reopening scars I'd thought scarred over. That night sleep evaded us. Araya retreated to her room overlooking the gorge, sketches abandoned on the floor like fallen soldiers. I paced the hallway, the villa's cool stones offering no comfort, replaying every moment with Richard. The way he'd pause mid-sentence when Elvis tunes played on the radio, his gaze distant. The photos of Elena tucked in his wallet, faded but cherished. Had I been the rebound? The convenient bridge to raise his daughter? The questions gnawed, turning grief to something sharper, doubt. Morning brought no ease. Araya emerged hollow-eyed, announcing she was going into Rhonda for supplies. "Need to clear my head," she said, avoiding my eyes. I nodded, brewing coffee strong enough to strip paint. But as her scooter sputtered down the dirt path, a chill settled in my bones. Hours ticked by, the sun climbed high, baking the earth. By noon worry overrode pride. I called her phone voicemail. Texted. "Everything okay?" Silence. It was Carmen, the baker, who found me on the plaza, fanning myself with a market basket. "Your girl? With that Mateo boy again, at the cafe by the bullring." Her tone was pitying, the village telegraph at work. I thanked her, pulse thundering, and walked the cobbled streets until I spotted them. Araya and Mateo, heads bent close over iced horchata, her hand on his knee in a gesture that screamed familiarity. Jealousy hit like vertigo, but beneath it betrayal, hers, for seeking solace in arms that weren't mine. Mine for the possessiveness I'd never voiced. I turned away before they saw me, retreating to the villa like a wounded animal. The letters mocked me from the table, Elena's ink bleeding accusations. By dusk Araya returned, cheeks flushed, excuses tumbling. "Just talking. He's sorry and I needed to hear it." "Talking," I echoed, voice flat as the plain below. "Or forgetting." Her face crumpled. "What do you want from me, Ariella? To pretend those letters don't change everything? That Dad didn't pine for her while he was with you. With us." The argument erupted like a geyser. words we'd bottled for months spewing forth. I gave up my life for this, for you. I shouted, gesturing wildly at the walls that suddenly felt like a prison. Chicago, my career, everything because I loved him. And now you're throwing it back like it was nothing. You think I asked for that? Araya fired back, tears streaking her face. I was 12 when you showed up, all polished and perfect, turning our messy house into some Pinterest dream. I hated you for it at first. Then I started needing you. But if it was all built on lies. She trailed off, the air crackling. In the heat of it, she grabbed my arms, her grip fierce, eyes blazing with a mix of hurt and hunger. Tell me it wasn't a lie. Tell me this isn't. Our breaths mingled inches apart, the world narrowing to the heat of her skin, the tremble in her lips. For a heartbeat I leaned in, then pulled back, horror flooding me. We can't. You're his daughter. Step, she whispered, but it was a plea, not a correction. She released me, stumbling back, and fled to her room. The door clicked shut like a verdict. That night the storm returned, fiercer than before, lightning forking across the sky as rain lashed the windows. I sat in the dark, the letters scattered like confetti from a ruined party, wrestling with the truth. My love for Richard had been real but incomplete, shadowed by the ease with which I'd slipped into Araya's orbit, the way her presence filled the voids he left. It wasn't lust, not in the cheap fleeting sense. It was deeper, a recognition of souls adrift finding harbor in each other. But harbors can sink ships if you're not careful. Dawn broke gray and sodden. Araya found me in the kitchen, brewing tea with hands that shook. I talked to Mateo last night, she said quietly, sliding into a chair. Told him it's over for good. And I called Elena's number from the letters. She's in Portland now, married, 2 kids. She wants to meet me. Next month. The words hung a crossroads. Relief warred with loss, relief that she'd chosen clarity, loss at the distance it implied. That's good, I managed. You deserve answers. She reached across the table, her fingers lacing with mine. But not without you. If you'll have me, not as Dad's shadow but as me. The touch was electric, innocent yet profound, a promise wrapped in possibility. We spent the day planning. A train to Portland, a tentative coffee with Elena, bridges to build or burn. Laughter crept back in, tentative at first, over burnt toast and shared maps, then fuller, echoing like it used to. The villa felt alive again, its walls witnesses to our fragile mending. But Spain doesn't yield its lessons easily. As August waned, whispers from Malaga reached us. Mateo's pride, bruised by rejection, twisted into spite. He spread rumors in the art circles, vicious nothings about Araya's unstable family, painting me as the meddling American interloper. It culminated at her end-of-term exhibit, a showcase in a converted monastery overlooking the sea. We'd arrived arm in arm, proud as peacocks, her pieces, abstract swirls of color evoking the gorge's fury and calm, drawing murmurs of acclaim. Then Mateo cornered us by the wine table, glass in hand, eyes glassy. Come to gloat, madre? He sneered, the word dripping venom. Or to keep your little pet on a leash? Araya stiffened, but I stepped forward, voice steady. Walk away, Mateo. This isn't your stage. He laughed, slurring. Everyone knows your dirty secret. The widow who couldn't let go, clinging to her dead husband's kid like some tragic heroine. Pathetic. Gasps rippled, heads turned. Araya's face drained of color, her hand clenching mine like a vice. The room spun, humiliation hot in my throat. We'd been so careful, so unspoken. How had he seen? Or guessed? In that moment, betrayal tasted like bile. Not just his pettiness, but the world's readiness to twist tenderness into scandal. We fled into the night, the monastery bells tolling like accusations. In the car, Araya wept raw, wrenching sobs that shook the seats. He's wrong, I said, pulling over on a cliffside pullout, the Mediterranean crashing below. We're not pathetic. We're surviving. She turned to me, eyes fierce through tears. Then prove it. Kiss me, Ariella. Or let me go. The challenge hung, the sea's roar urging a choice. Heart hammering, I cupped her face, soft, tear-streaked, and closed the distance. It was gentle, a brush of lips like rain on parched earth, tasting of salt and wine and home. No fire, no frenzy, just truth blooming in the quiet. We drove back in silence, hands entwined over the gearshift, the stars emerging like benedictions. Autumn swept into Rhonda like a sigh, the Sierras donning golds and russets, the air crisp with the promise of change. Our kiss lingered in every glance, every accidental touch. A secret language we spoke in code. A shared blanket on cool evenings, her head on my shoulder during old movies streamed on a glitchy laptop. It was romantic in the American sense. Stolen moments charged with possibility, like scenes from those indie flicks we'd binge on rainy Chicago nights. But grounded in Spain's earthy rhythm, walks through mist-shrouded pueblos where locals nodded without prying. Yet conflict simmered. The exhibit fallout rippled. Invitations dried up, Araya's professors offering sympathetic smiles that felt like pity. It's just gossip, I'd say, pouring her chamomile at night. But doubt festered. What were we, really? Stepfamily recast in a narrative we couldn't publish? Society's lines, familial, generational, loomed like the gorge's edge, daring us to leap. Elena's visit loomed as the true test. We boarded the train to Madrid, then flew to Portland, the Atlantic a vast buffer between our fragile world and the one we'd left. Araya was a bundle of nerves, fingers drumming the armrest, her curls tamed into a braid that made her look younger, more vulnerable. "What if she hates me?" she whispered as we taxied through the drizzle-slick streets. I squeezed her hand. "Then we get ice cream and go home. You're enough with or without her." Portland greeted us gray and green, all craft breweries and food carts steaming under awnings. A slice of Pacific Northwest that echoed our old Denver days. Elena waited at a cafe near the Willamette, mid-40s like me but softer around the edges, blonde hair streaked with gray, eyes the same hazel as Araya's. The reunion was awkward poetry. Hugs stiff as starched collars, words halting over lattes. "I was young and scared," Elena admitted, twisting a napkin. "Your father. He deserved better than my chaos." Araya listened, tears silent, absorbing the woman who'd birthed her but barely known her. No recriminations, just questions about the life Elena had built, the half-siblings Araya now had, photos passed like olive branches. I sat back, the observer, heart swelling at Araya's grace. But as the afternoon waned, Elena's gaze sharpened on me. "Richard spoke of you often. Said you were the steady one, the heart he needed after. Well, after me." The word stung, a backhanded grace. Steady. Heart. But not the spark. Araya caught my flinch, her foot nudging mine under the table, a silent anchor. We left with promises. Emails, visits, a thread rewoven. On the flight home, Araya slept against my shoulder, her breath even, and I traced the line of her jaw, marveling at the woman she'd become, resilient like the cork oaks that bent but never broke in the wind. Back in Rhonda, the climax brewed not in drama, but in quiet unraveling. Winter nipped at the heels of fall, the villa's fountain freezing in fits. Araya's art evolved, canvases now layered with our shared palette. Sienna earths for the gorgeous, cerulean skies for stolen glances. But external pressures mounted. A letter from my Chicago firm. A promotion relocation required. "Come home," it urged. "The team's waiting." Araya found it on the counter, my coffee still warm. "You're leaving." Her voice was small, echoing the girl who'd lost her father. "Not if it means losing you." I pulled her close, our embrace fierce in the cold kitchen. But doubt whispered. Was this sustainable? The age gap, 23 years, felt vast in mirrors, in the way villagers' eyes lingered. And the betrayal lingered too. Richard's letters a ghost, Elena's shadow a reminder that families fracture. The breaking point came mid-December, under a sky bruised with storm clouds. We'd planned a simple Yule. Advent candles, mulled wine, a nod to American holidays in our Spanish exile. But Araya arrived from Malaga late, eyes red-rimmed, a sketchbook clutched like a shield. "Professor Ruiz pulled me aside today," she said, voice trembling. "Said the rumors are affecting my grade. That I need to focus on my work, not distractions." "He meant you." Rage boiled, but hers was a torrent. "It's everywhere, Ariella." Whispers in the studio, stares at the market. They see us, holding hands, laughing too close, and they twist it. "I'm not ashamed, but God, it hurts. Like I'm dirty for loving you." The word loving hung, a declaration and a wound. I drew her to the terrace, the gorge swallowed in fog, and held her as she raged. At Mateo's poison, at the world's smallness, at the roles we'd inherited. "I feel like a fool," she sobbed. chasing something beautiful in a place that wants to stone it. You're no fool, I murmured, kissing her forehead, her temple, the salt of her tears. We're pioneers, sweetheart. Like those women in Dad's photos, standing on cliffs daring the wind. But as night fell, the storm broke, literal and figurative. Rain hammered the roof, wind howling through the Puente Nuevo like a banshee. Power flickered out, plunging us into candlelit intimacy. We talked for hours, raw and unfiltered. My fears of being the older woman, her terror of abandonment. I betrayed you once with the packing, I confessed. Don't let me do it again. You didn't betray me, she said, cupping my face. You were scared. Like I am now. Her kiss was deeper this time. A seal on our pact, lips parting in tenderness, hands mapping shoulders and waists with reverence, not hunger. It was emotional cartography, charting the landscapes of trust. Yet dawn brought clarity's cruel edge. Over breakfast, black coffee and pan con tomate, we faced the fork. Stay and fight the whispers or return to America, where reinvention might breathe easier. Chicago's got rainbows on every corner now, I said, half joking. Pride flags year-round. Araya smiled, but it wobbled. And leave Spain? The light here. It's in my bones. In us. We chose compromise. I'd defer the job, freelance from Rhonda through spring. Araya would confront Ruiz, demand her due. It wasn't grand heroism but humanistic, small steps toward visibility, vulnerability as strength. Spring unfurled like forgiveness. Blossoms rioting in the valleys, Araya's exhibit rescheduled to acclaim. My pitches landing clients who didn't care about zip codes. We built rituals, a weekly flamenco class in town, where her hips swayed with fire and I followed clumsily, laughing. Picnics by the river, feet dangling over the edge, sharing dreams of galleries in New York or a book of Richard's photos we'd compile together. Betrayal's echoes faded, transmuted into growth. Elena visited once, awkward but warm, toasting to late blooms over sangria. Mateo slunk away, his sculptures gathering dust. And us? We were a quiet revolution. Two women, step-tied but soul-bound, carving love from the stone of loss. One evening, as the sun gilded the gorge, Araya sketched me. Pencil whispering over paper, capturing the lines of my face with a lover's precision. You're my horizon, she said softly, setting the pad aside. And you're the view. I pulled her close, our foreheads touching, the world vast and kind below. In the end, it wasn't happily ever after. No veils or vows, just the steady hum of days woven together. Richard would approve, I think, his dream of sun and survival realized in ways he never imagined. We stayed in Rhonda, the villa our anchor, Spain's wild heart beating in sync with ours. Shocked? Yes, by the door that burst open, the truths it unleashed. But in the shock we found grace. A love humanistic in its imperfection, dramatic in its depth, romantic in its quiet roar.